Here's the gap that no one wants to talk about. You aren't actually looking for a solution. What you're looking for is someone to validate that what you are doing right now will work. That what you are doing right in this second is enough. It's good enough. It will deliver the results. Because the solution is out there. Well, hell. If you want to become disciplined, if you want to build a great physique, if you want to become the best version of yourself, I have the solution right here for you. You can click the link and we'll get you started today. Or you could go back through and I've given you basically all the answers. The solution is here. The problem is that you don't like the answer. You don't like the solution because it requires effort, because it requires hard work. It requires discipline and consistency and intensity. It requires the things that you don't want to give right now. It's like the one we talk about all the time. The magic is on the other side of the work that you're avoiding. You have the solution. You have it at your fingertips. In today's world, everything that you could ever want to know is possible to find out. Whether it's a perfect solution or not, you can find out an adequate solution that with effort, with intensity, and with consistency, you will succeed. But you don't want to do that. You don't want to know that that is the answer. That you don't want to know that that is what is required for you to get everything you want. And that's the gap. That what is, honestly required as the first step is that you need to stop tolerating where you are at. You need to stop tolerating your current life. And you need to start hating it. You need to make it so incredibly uncomfortable that you have no other option, literally no other option, but to change, but to step forward, to do something completely fucking different, to sacrifice everything that might be holding you back and do the work. That's what's required. But people don't want to talk about that. They don't want to have to talk about that. They're going to have to zero out potentially their income, zero out their time, their effort, all the things that they use to sedate. They have to zero those out and just go all in. But for as long as you tolerate where you're at, as long as you go, it's really not that bad, well, you're going to keep making up excuses. You're going to keep having justifications. You're going to keep finding reasons and answers as to why you can continue on the way you are. And why you won't take up the solution. Because, well, the solution's uncomfortable. The solution requires work and effort and doing things that, well, you don't want to do. You want whatever you're currently doing to be enough. You want to surround yourself with people who agree that that's enough. But it's not. Because if it was, you wouldn't be unhappy. If it was, you'd have the things that you want. If it was enough, you wouldn't be asking the question of how can I do better? You wouldn't be looking for a solution. You would already had it. You would already be there. And that's the problem. And that's the gap. That you don't actually want a solution. You want to be validated in what you're already doing. That's why people search it out. It's why they look for people who are the same as them, who are going to be like, yeah, you're doing great. It's awesome. What you got going on? Fantastic. Love it. No. No. You have to elevate. And the problem is that also you surround yourself with people who let you off the hook, who tell you that you're doing all right, that you're doing okay, that what you are doing is enough. And at the end of the day, look at your results. And if the results aren't there, and if you aren't happy and satisfied with your life, well, then what you are doing is not enough. What you are doing is not working. And that's just the harsh reality of this. That if you aren't abundantly satisfied with your life, well, what you're doing isn't the answer. What you're doing requires more work. What you're doing needs to be adjusted and changed. And that's deeply confronting. You know, the hardest one isn't continuing on. The hardest one isn't progressing forward. The hardest part is that first step, is entering the gym for the first time. Putting your money where your mouth is, that you go, I am actually really fucking unhappy. So therefore, I'm going to do something about it. That is the hardest step. That is the most confronting moment, is taking on that first step and going, there is something wrong with my life, and I am willing to do what is required to change. That's the hardest step, because you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest about your life. You have to be honest about where you're currently at, and then continue to do the work. But once you get honest, well, it's easier to be honest after that. Once you've taken ownership and been brutally honest with yourself about where you're at, well, it gets a bit easier after that, because, well, if you've actually stepped the fuck up and actually started doing work, well, you'll be progressing. And so it'll be a little bit easier the next time, and a little bit easier the next time, and a little bit easier the next time. Because assuming that you're following through, you'll be progressing. And so it's easier to have the hard conversations. It's easier to look at yourself in the mirror and recognize, well, how bad that situation was. But you cannot keep validating where you're at and expect a different result. It's the same as, I'm not sure, they attribute it to Albert Einstein, but that one of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So if what you're doing isn't working, if you aren't happy with the situation, well, maybe it's time to make a drastic change. Maybe it's time to completely flip over the table and start again and progress into something different. Because, well, you can't continue to stay there and expect a different outcome. As I said, you need to get to a point where you fucking hate it. Where you hate where you're at. Where you hate this life that you've built. Where you hate the man in the mirror. Because you'll continue to tolerate it. And I actually think that's worse. People are like, oh, that's really unhealthy to hate your life. Yeah, it is. That's why you change it. But you have to get to that place where you hate it enough to make the change. There are only two reasons to change. You're either moving away from pain or towards pleasure. But generally speaking, the towards pleasure isn't harsh enough. It isn't enough for people to actually change. Because, well, if the effort and the work that is required to do it is greater than your perception of the reward, well, let's be real here, you're not going to do the work. Because you've deemed that the outcome isn't high enough to continue sacrificing what you're sacrificing. So you're not going to do it. That's just reality of it. So it's why we have to, well, A, be brutally honest, and B, ratchet up how much pain and discomfort we're in and how much we dislike this life, so that you'll be willing to do the work. So that you'll be willing to break free of this situation. Because if you continue down this, well, it's just going to get worse. It's that old saying, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. Yeah, it would have been better if you'd caught this ages ago. It would have been better if you decided a long time ago that this wasn't the way that you wanted to live your life, that you weren't happy with this scenario. That would have been a much better choice, but we didn't do that. So we're here and now, and all we can do is take control of where we're at. So you need to make a decision on where you're at. And if you're comfortable, and if you tolerate it, and if you go, it's good enough, why would you change? Let's be realistic on this. Why would you change? You won't. You wouldn't. Because good enough, but good enough has killed more dreams and ruined more lives than I think any other statement. Because it's not true. It's not a truthful statement. You aren't actually happy, and you're lying to yourself about it. I can guarantee it. I can fucking guarantee it. Nobody wakes up in the morning and looks at their man tits in the mirror and goes, man, I love this. I am so incredibly happy with myself. This is the best day ever. They don't. They might go, oh, it's all right. It's okay. It's fine. But you aren't happy with that. And that's not a vanity thing. That's a, what are you able to do with your life thing? It's what are you capable of? And what stresses and stuff are you placing on your body? You aren't healthy. And this is the one when we talk about parents, and I always cop flack for this. And I'm like, if you aren't at bare minimum strong, fit, and healthy, you are letting down your children. People are like, oh, that's a bit harsh. And I was like, you cannot be the best possible father without getting into shape. And I always get pushback, and they're like, that's not true. And I was like, it is. You just don't want to admit that because that hurts. I can guarantee you that you are unable to do things that you'd want to do with your children if you aren't fit and healthy. Or if you do, you risk injury or a heart attack or something along those lines, getting stuck. I've seen that happen at the playground, taking my kids, a parent, and I gave them full credit because they went at it. They went and tried to play with their kids and the equipment and got fucking stuck. Now that's traumatizing for the parent. That's traumatizing for the child. It's traumatizing for everyone involved for them to get down. Or the father I watched trying to relive his youth, as he put it, and tore his quad. Yeah. And then he's on the ground writhing in pain, and his child is distraught, trying to understand what happened to daddy. Because you cannot parent at the highest level, because you made choices that were easier in the moment. You chose to sedate, you chose to eat the wrong food, you chose to avoid the gym, you chose to avoid doing difficult things, because in the moment that was easier. But those choices will come back to bite you. Those choices mean that you aren't being the best father, the best husband, the best man that you can be. That's just a reality. That you are not living up to your full potential if you aren't looking after your health and fitness. If you aren't challenging yourself, if you aren't doing hard things, if you aren't pushing yourself to see what you are capable of. We as men need that. We need these things to push us and challenge us and to physically work hard. It's primal and it's built into us. You need to find a way to do these things. You need to find a way to step out of that. And until you find a way to, look after your health and fitness, to push yourself every single day, to challenge yourself and find a way to overcome, you are leaving it on the table. You are not living out your best life. You are not living up to being the best version of yourself. And it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard. It's going to require effort. But it'll be worth it. It will be worth it if you're willing to commit. If you're willing to just get into the fucking trenches and do what is required. But you have to let go of this notion of I'm okay and this is enough. No, it's not. You need to be building for more. You need to be pushing yourself harder. You need to stop procrastinating on building the life that you want. And all of that, all of it, everything you want starts with your health and your fitness. It starts with working hard, sweating, pushing your body to the limits, seeing what you are capable of. It's a Seneca quote. No man should go to his grave without discovering the potential of his body. Start setting the standard. Start raising the bar for yourself and watch how every aspect of your life gets better. Start being the one who leads by example. Be the father who can do anything at any moment that his children want and need. I'm telling you, you'll have a much better relationship with your children if you become the dad who's able to take on anything they want to do. Play the sports, climb the thing, do the jump, get down low, roll around on the floor, whatever it is they want and need, because you have the physical fitness and capacity to do it. Everything in your life will be better from doing that. And if you don't know where to start, you don't know how that looks, and you don't know how to begin that journey, let me take care of it for you. Click the link, join Demanding Greatness. I'll hold you accountable. I will map it out completely, and I will ensure that you become that man. You become that father who can do anything for his children. And that's who you want to be. So if you're ready for that, you know where to find me. But until then,